Mason Greenwood makes major Man United reunion decision as paperwork completed before huge move. Manchester United sold Mason Greenwood to Marseille for around £27 million during the summer transfer window after the forward spent last season on loan at Getafe. Mason Greenwood has reportedly completed the necessary paperwork to switch international allegiances from England to Jamaica. Greenwood, 23, can represent the Caribbean country through his paternal grandparents. FIFA rules allow the player to switch because he only played in one competitive match for the Three Lions. Gareth Southgate gave Greenwood his senior England debut as a second-half substitute during a Nations League match away against Iceland in September 2020. At the time, that appearance would have made Greenwood ineligible to play for another national team. But coincidentally, a fortnight later, FIFA's annual Congress approved a rule change to make its regulations less restrictive to players who played in fewer than 4 competitive games for a national team before turning 21. The requisite 3 years a player must wait before switching eligibility passed in early September 2023. 16 months later, the Daily Star reports that Greenwood has switched international allegiances. The Football Association is said to have made it clear to the player that he would not be considered for selection again by England. Manchester United suspended Greenwood in January 2022 after following his arrest on suspicion of rape. 9 months later, he was charged with attempted rape, controlling and coercive behavior, and assault, occasioning actual bodily harm. The Marseille forward denied the charges, which were subsequently dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service. Getafe signed the player on a season-long loan last season, and then this summer, he left the club permanently to join Marseille. The forward now appears to have changed national teams too. The former United assistant coach, Steve McLaren, became Jamaica's head coach this summer and revealed at his unveiling that he had a conversation with Greenwood at Carrington before both left the club. Greenwood's decision lines up a reunion with the former United assistant, and they will both now be hoping for success with the Jamaica national team. Mason Greenwood's future has been a major talking point since his departure from Manchester United, and the young forward has now made a significant decision regarding his next move. After a season-long loan at Getafe and Manchester United's official sale of Greenwood to Marseille for a reported fee of £27 million, the move is set to be a major step in his career. Greenwood's time at Manchester United was marked by great potential and high expectations, but also controversy, which led to a lengthy period of uncertainty surrounding his future at the club. Following the conclusion of his loan spell at Getafe, where he showed glimpses of the talent that once made him one of the brightest young prospects in world football, Greenwood seemed ready to take the next step in his career. The decision to move to Marseille is seen as a fresh start for Greenwood. The French club has a history of nurturing talented players and providing them with a platform to perform in a competitive league. Greenwood, who is still only 23, will be looking to rebuild his career, regain his confidence, and focus on getting back to his best form. Reports suggest that the paperwork for the deal has already been completed, and the move is set to be finalized soon. This transfer marks a huge shift for both Greenwood and Manchester United. The Red Devils will likely be pleased to see the issue resolved, as it clears the way for them to focus on their current squad, while also financially benefiting from the sale. Meanwhile, Marseille will be hoping that Greenwood's talent and ability will help them push for higher positions in League One and potentially make an impact in European competitions. This deal, however, still raises questions about the broader implications for Greenwood's career and future in top-level football. Many will be closely watching how he adapts to his new environment in Marseille and whether he can rediscover the form that saw him become one of the most promising talents in England just a few years ago. For Greenwood, this is undoubtedly a pivotal moment, one that could shape the next chapter of his career. The player now faces the task of proving himself on the pitch and demonstrating that he has the mental and physical readiness to succeed at a high level once again. With a fresh start in Marseille, Greenwood's journey is far from over. It may be the beginning of a much-anticipated footballing revival. Sheikh Jassim Man United takeover stance clear as Avram Glazer speaks out. Sheikh Jassim was long tipped to replace the Glazers and buy Manchester United. Interest in Qatari businessman Sheikh Jassim taking over Manchester United has risen again, despite Avram Glazer confirming that he has no intention of selling the club. The Glazers' involvement at Old Trafford has angered some United supporters, many of whom have protested against the ownership since Avram and his late father, Malcolm, engineered a takeover in 2005. Many had hoped that the Glazer family would consider leaving United for good after announcing plans for new investors in 2005, November 2022. At the time, the Glazers announced it was commencing a process to explore strategic alternatives, giving some United fans hope that they could be on their way out. During a long and stretched-out process, Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe led the race for the most part to become United's next owners. In the end, Ineos chief Ratcliffe won as his bid meant the Glazers kept their place as primary owners, while Jassim wanted to buy 100% of the club and submitted a £4.79 billion offer. But their disappointing start to life under Ratcliffe, who has a 27.7% stake in United, and the 2024-25 season as a whole has revamped rumors that Jassim could reignite his pursuit in buying the club. And in December, the Daily Mail reported that Jassim is still interested in buying United despite Ineos's investment. He dreams of owning the club he is said to support. A Qatari advisor told them, "He is still a United fan. He is not going to rush off and try another Premier League club. If the opportunity to buy the whole of Manchester United arose again at some point in the future, it is hard to see there not being a big level of interest. The plans are still there." The report also claimed that, had Jassim bought the club, he would have removed all of the club's debt, which has been a huge financial burden for United, and announced plans to build a new stadium. Following the latest set of United's financial results released on Wednesday, the net debt accrued since the Glazers' takeover in 2005 has reached over the £1 billion mark. Jassim would have helped to clear that sum and help ease United's dim financial situation. As well as this, United posted a loss of £27.7 million for the three-month period ending December 2024. United had to fork out £10.4 million to pay off Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff following the Dutchman's dismissal in October. A further £4 million was paid to Dan Ashworth after he left the club in December. The potential takeover of Manchester United by Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani has been one of the most talked-about stories in world football. Sheikh Jassim, a member of the Qatari royal family, has long been linked to a bid for the club, with many seeing him as the most likely candidate to replace the Glazers, the American family that has owned the club since 2005. Avram Glazer, one of the key figures behind the current ownership, recently spoke out about the future of the club. His comments have sparked further speculation about whether a sale is imminent or if the Glazers are digging in for the long haul. In his statement, Avram Glazer appeared to suggest that they have no immediate plans to relinquish control of Manchester United, but he did acknowledge the significant interest from investors like Sheikh Jassim. Sheikh Jassim's bid is seen by many as a potential turning point for the club, especially given his intentions to bring Manchester United back to the top of European and global football. His stance has always been that he wants to buy the club with a vision of restoring it to its former glory, focusing not just on financial gain, but also on footballing success and improving the club's infrastructure, including its stadium and training facilities. The Glazers, meanwhile, have been facing mounting pressure from fans, with many expressing frustration over the club's lack of success in recent years and their perceived indifference to the club's traditions and culture. This frustration has led to protests against their ownership, with many fans hoping that a change in ownership could lead to a brighter future for Manchester United. However, the Glazers have shown resilience in holding on to their assets, and Avram's recent comments suggest that the family is not eager to part ways with Manchester United just yet. The ongoing saga raises many questions about the future of one of the most iconic clubs in world football. As Sheikh Jassim's bid continues to be scrutinized, there are also rumors of other potential suitors, which could further complicate matters. Ultimately, the question remains: will the Glazers finally decide to sell, and will Sheikh Jassim or any other buyer be the one to take Manchester United in a new direction? Only time will tell. Ruben Amorim fans' verdict makes next Manchester United move clear for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Ineos have reached a year in charge at Man United, and the Manchester Evening News has canvassed supporter opinion on how the first 12 months have gone. Sir Jim Ratcliffe may or may not be an avid reader of the Manchester Evening News, but the survey we conducted to gauge fan sentiment on his first 12 months as a minority investor in the club doesn't make for comforting reading. A total of 67% of the respondents said they were very worried by Ineos's running of the club on the evidence at hand so far. A further 24% were at least slightly worried, meaning 91% of supporters are concerned by what they have seen during Ratcliffe's year in command. It's a far cry from the feeling in February last year when Ratcliffe's £1.25 billion investment was confirmed, handing him just over a quarter of the club. With that deal came control, however, and it has been the 72-year-old calling the shots rather than the Glazer family for the last 12 months. It's been a dispiriting year, however. There has been a change in manager that was more expensive than it needed to be, a 5-month spell for sporting director Dan Ashworth that cost the club £4.1 million, 250 redundancies with more to follow, a string of cuts to staff bonuses, and a rise in ticket prices. It's probably not surprising that 79% of fans said they had a worse opinion of Ratcliffe now compared to a year ago. None of this pain was expected back then, when there was only positivity that the Glazers' iron grip on the club was at least being loosened a little. However, all hope is not lost for Ratcliffe. Although 64% of supporters feel United won't ever be successful under his control, a figure that feels high after just 1 year, just over a third, still retain the faith that the pain being felt now will eventually be worth it. And there appears to be one reason for that. Ratcliffe hasn't had much to celebrate over the last year, but 43% of people believe appointing Ruben Amorim has been his best call. 33% picked progress on Old Trafford redevelopments, and 24% picked modernizing the football structure. Amorim has had a nightmare start to his tenure as head coach, and United have lost 8 of their last 12 Premier League fixtures, but the 40-year-old retains the backing of supporters. He has come across as an engaging and open talker in public, statesmanlike when required, but also critical of what he has found at the club. It is understandable that supporters want him to succeed, and there is an acceptance at the moment that he simply doesn't have the squad to play the system he demands. With supporters now at least suspicious of Ratcliffe but nailing their colors to the mast when it comes to Amorim, the former has to find the funds to give the latter the transfer window he needs this summer. There would have been no point in appointing Amorim to play a style that doesn't fit this squad, only to tell the Portuguese head coach that there is no money left to overhaul it. Ratcliffe's swinging cuts have all been sold as attempts to free up every last penny to go into the first team. With fans still backing Amorim, he needs to be true to his word and deliver the kind of transformative transfer window that could finally bring some on-pitch progress next season. As Ineos marks 1 year in charge of Manchester United, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his consortium have been under intense scrutiny for their handling of the club's affairs, especially with the managerial situation. The Manchester Evening News recently surveyed United supporters to gather their verdict on the first 12 months under Ineos's stewardship, with the overwhelming response shedding light on what fans expect moving forward. particularly regarding the future of manager Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim, the man appointed to turn around Manchester United's fortunes, has been a polarizing figure among the Old Trafford faithful. While some supporters have expressed admiration for his tactical approach and determination to instill discipline and structure, others have voiced concerns about his ability to meet the high expectations set by the club's history and fan base. Over the past year, Amorim has navigated a season of turmoil, battling injuries, inconsistent form, and a highly demanding schedule. Despite a number of setbacks, his emphasis on youth development and his attempts to implement a high-pressing, fast-paced style of play have earned him praise from a significant portion of the fan base. Many supporters have seen glimpses of progress under his leadership, even if the results have not always been in line with expectations. However, the consensus from United fans seems to be that Amorim's tenure could hinge on the next few months. With injuries continuing to ravage the squad, many supporters are calling for a more pragmatic approach from the manager to ensure the club navigates its way through these difficult times.